Hello, and welcome back to Ruben Uncut. Today, I found out that Tim Pool made a PragerU video, so I'm going to blind react to that, meaning I have not watched it before. I only kind of have a hint of what it might be about based on, well, the title. So let's get into that and see what it's all about. For those not aware of Tim Pool is one of those content creators on YouTube, and I don't know if he probably has another site somewhere else where he was one of the first people to go from being a leftist commentator to being a right-wing commentator. You know, one of those I left the left people. So I guess what I'm saying is probably a grifter. But we don't know what is going to happen in this video yet. Or at least I don't. Maybe you've seen it already. Let's take a look. All right, so here we go. That's Tim Pool. Apparently he's super bald under there. Tim, man, it's okay to be bald. It means you got testosterone. Embrace it. Isn't that what right-wing people are all about these days? Men having testosterone? All right, so here we have him in front of the traditional PragerU blue background. For those not familiar with PragerU is a propaganda channel on YouTube. I'm sure they have their own website also that identifies as a university, you know, even though it doesn't have any degrees or anything. But who am I to argue with them? Here we go.
Congrats! You made it. You finished college. You got good grades. Congrats! You made it. You finished college. You got good grades. Okay, passing grades. Now you're gonna get a good job. Okay, a job. In 20 years, maybe you'll pay off your student loans. After working for another 30 years...
I'm getting close to 30 years and they're not even close to paid off. Ouch.
You may finally be able to retire and take that cruise to Aruba you always talk about. And then, you die. What a joke. Is this really what God or the universe or your mother had in mind for you? Who
That's what capitalism has in mind for you, brother. Capitalism.
decided this is the path to success? The woke colleges that teach you almost nothing of real value?
Okay. All right. Right. Okay. All right. I think I know where this is going. Is this a work, don't get educated video? Let's see.
The corporations that need well-being.
For anyone who's just listening to the audio, it's work, keep working, and then work harder. Zach Galifianakis says you're wrong, by the way, Tim Pool.
Behaved worker bees to reach their quarterly targets? The government that takes half your income and then wastes it? I'm here to tell you that there is...
Who is losing half their income to taxes? I'm dead serious. I'm fairly confident I have never given the government 50% of my money. Not even once. Like, not even when I made good money. To be fair, I made middle class money, not like go up a tax bracket money. But like, hyperbole, man.
Is another way. I know, because I'm living it. I dropped out of high school at 14.
Holy shit. No wonder he dumb as hell.
Worked minimum wage jobs when minimum meant something. As in, next to nothing.
It's still next to nothing. It's still... Is that the problem, Tim? Do you think the minimum wage is super higher than it was when you were 14? It was probably like $6 an hour. Most places still 7 something. That's barely any movement. It doesn't keep up with inflation, Tim.
I lived out of my car and camped in parks. And yet here I am.
Okay, I got it. Okay, wait a minute. So there's clearly details he's leaving out here. Like, hold on. Did I miss it? Did he say something about leaving home? Okay, let's get...
Dropped out of high school at 14. I worked minimum wage jobs when minimum meant something. As in, next to nothing. I lived out of my car and camped in parks. And yet here I am, one of the most watched personalities on the internet.
Okay, hold up, hold up. There's a lot of weird shit in there, Tim. Like, you had a car at 14? Or did you just like skip ahead a bunch? Where does your family factor into this, Tim? Where does your family come into this story? Because if you how long were you homeless? Why did you leave your parents' house if you had nowhere else to go? Is there something about your parents you don't share with the public? Did you have a really unhappy family life? 14? Who would you even get hired by? Was there like, there's clearly details missing here.
I employ a bunch of people, and I make more than the minimum wage. How did I get here without a college degree?
He's going to tell you he worked hard, but it's a little bit more than that because he's a content creator. Content creator, not everyone can be a content creator, okay? I'm going to look up the numbers and put them on the screen or something, and I'll tell you how many people actually successfully live off of being content creators.
As someone once said, I never let my schooling interfere with my education. My parents owned a coffee house in Chicago. I did a little bit of everything, and while I was cleaning, cooking, or cashiering...
Okay, we are going back and forth from the timeline here, Tim Pool. If you were employed by your parents, why did you have to live in your car?
I was also soaking up the banter, learning about culture, politics, and why Jason hated the Republican Party. That was my education.
Tim, are you fucking serious right now? That's what you're going to hold up as your education? You sat in a coffee shop and you listened to people talk about things? Tim, I hate to tell you this, but don't get me wrong, it's great to talk with people. But Tim, if anyone in that room knew more about these things that you could learn from them, they probably had a real education. And also, they're probably stupid, and you're filtering their better education through their stupid lens into your brain. So you are getting the stupid person version of an education.
I didn't have some grand plan for my life. Actually, I didn't have any plan. I just worked hard.
Clearly, Tim. Clearly. Side note, everyone, I don't know where he's going with this exactly yet, but like working in a coffee shop it has nothing to do with being a content creator. These things he's describing right now have nothing to do with why he's succeeded as a content creator.
Hard. Whether I was handing out extra crispy fries at the drive-thru window or freezing my ass off hauling luggage at O'Hare, I was always excited about what...
How many jobs did you have, Tim? How many jobs did you jump between? Were you constantly getting fired? If I were an employer and I was looking at your resume right now, I'd have some questions. How old were you when you got famous? How long did you do these jobs for?
What I was doing, because I knew my next job and the one after that would be better. In my early 20s, I began a career in activism. I fundraised on behalf of Greenpeace and other environmental nonprofits, and I was damn good at it. In fact, I was always one of their top fundraisers. But I walked away when I discovered that the green these organizations claimed to care about was not the environment. Around that time, rumors began circulating on the internet about something called Occupy Wall Street. The plan was for thousands of people to storm the streets of New York because they felt that the rich were being bailed out during an economic crisis they caused. Meanwhile,
which they did, by the way. It was the rich people who caused the housing crisis by pushing for deregulation and all that crap. And also, they owned all the companies that did the shit that wasn't regulated. Huge mess. But I think Tim Pool's trying to paint a story here.
Middle class.
Also, it's interesting. Side note, he is right about one thing. If you want to make money, be a person that works with money. He basically just described himself as a money raiser or a fundraiser. So, yeah.
And the poor were being crushed. It seemed interesting.
True.
So I thought it was worth checking out. I bought a round-trip bus ticket to New York, planning to stay there for a week. I stayed 6 years. Multiple times a day, I would live stream and post photos of what was happening. When the epicenter of the protest at Zuccotti Park was raided by the police, I began what became a 22-hour straight live stream. Time magazine picked up my story.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Tim Pool. Tim, do you understand the story that you're telling here? Oh my God, guys. You just have to be like live streaming at a really important event. That's the real story here, Tim. The only thing that brought you here was getting into activism. And ironically, having no purpose in life. Remember, kids, if you work hard, you too might one day be in a small part of history.
Career in media had officially begun. I was receiving phone calls, emails.
He literally got the job by just being in the right place. Okay? This is the thing that how are you the person giving us this video, Tim? Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Tim works hard on the product that he makes now. But the fact that he got this type of break is monumental to allowing him to have the success to build his further success. That's the advantage that the rich have that the poor don't, is that they have what they already need to build on top of what they've already succeeded with. I know I'm being a little pedantic with some of my criticisms of Tim Pool here. But like, I just hate his method of storytelling.
Book offers from every media organization you can probably think of. But I had already learned my lesson. I did not trust that they knew what they were doing, especially with new technology. So I went independent.
There is some fairness to the new technology part. But, you know, like, so here's a major problem that I have with PragerU, is that they really sell the concept of outsider exceptionalism when what they mean by outsider exceptionalism is white men, which doesn't really make sense. They want you to distrust they want you to distrust any establishment that doesn't hold PragerU's values. That's essentially what most PragerU videos are about. And he has hit on that several times now. Maybe, I mean, Tim Pool might just also not, well, I mean, like, he's an idiot. He dropped out of high school at 14. Like, do you understand that that's the first part of high school? Like, most people, that's like one grade of high school. Like, he doesn't, there's, if that, we don't know where in the year he dropped out. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to shit on dropouts, okay? Except dropouts, just so you're aware, statistically, you have the lowest likelihood of success. We are literally listening to a man who is apparently going to be making some argument for hard work, while at the same time being a person who basically quit his own education, never learned anything for real, and then got involved with activism, got pissed off that activists like money, and then was just in the right place at the right time with his fucking phone. If Tim Pool had never gone to Occupy Wall Street, would he be successful today? We don't know. And the thing that Tim Pool will never admit to himself is that he doesn't know either.
I worked my ass off. I reported on anything I thought was interesting. Always.
And by that, he means he just goes with any tidbit he hears, regardless of how factual or background checked or well sourced it actually is.
Posting. Now that I had built a...
There's a reason I put out 2 podcasts a week. It's because I also believe that there is some level of grind to this. Now, the thing is, I make a podcast, so like people can only absorb so much of this type of content at once. You know, some of these are like 2 hours, but there is something to be said for staying on top of your project. If you stay on top of a project, it will get done. Will your project be successful? Oh, well, it could be really successful, or it'll at least have happened, which is more successful than the project you didn't complete, like Tim Pool's high school degree. Side note, I don't know why Tim Pool dropped out of high school. His attitude makes me think it's that he's a self-absorbed idiot. But for all I know, there was a very real Serious reason he had to. I don't know what that thing could be at 14, but maybe I should give him the benefit of the doubt, even though he has the eyes of someone waiting to stab you.
A foundation. I had leverage. I went to Vice. I didn't ask them for a job. I told them the job they would make for me. They agreed. But as corporate media began to change and embrace the cult-like ideology.
Yeah, because Vice is so corporate. I actually have no idea what the corporate status of Vice is. Maybe they have, I don't know. They're created by Gavin McInnes, for those not familiar with Vice. And they do interesting documentary style work mostly. They have gotten pretty big now that I'm thinking about it. They got like that, yeah, they got shows on various streaming platforms and stuff too. I'll take that one back. That was I don't know. I don't know the background of Vice enough to judge on that. Okay. Let's see what else. The cult-like ideology, though. Cult-like ideology. Oh, wait, he hasn't said of what.
Of wokeness.
Oh God, fuck. You know what? Anti-wokeness is a fucking cult. If anything, is a cult, man. Oh my God. Wokeness is. I gotta do one of these that's just on wokeness sometime. But like, wokeness is nothing. It's the new Republican buzzword to make things sound scary. It's just like CRT, which Christopher Rufo basically publicly admitted is just a buzzword they created to try and lump things under to scare the public. It's on his official Twitter. I don't know if he's removed it, but it was there when I saw it. I should have screenshot it. I'm sure someone screenshotted it. But like anytime someone brings up wokeness, what they mean is that they know this buzzword gets clicks. Because that's the thing. That's his deal. People tune in to Tim Pool because they want to hear about what wokeness is up to today. Because people want that psychological thing. I got real excited in college when I realized how evil Monsanto was. And I got excited about that because it gave me this sense of like understanding what evil looked like. And some of that stuff was a little bit hyperbolic, but Monsanto really does suck. They are a terrible company. They are wasting the potential of GMOs, if anything. They also don't exist anymore. They've been bought by fuck, who bought them? It's a drug company. Bayer, maybe? But my point is that this is just a buzzword. The word wokeness original in its original definition, and as DeSanto's lawyers had to admit in the court of law, the definition of wokeness is merely to have an awareness of systemic problems. So literally, anyone who is anti-wokeness is anti-awareness of systemic problems. Look, some people take wokeness to a cringe level. Sure, fine. But but ultimately, when you understand the meaning of the word wokeness or woke, it's not bad. You should be aware of things, especially when there are problems with the government or society.
Realized I couldn't stay there. If I wanted to tell the truth, I had to do it myself. Fast forward 6 years, and I now have my own media empire. The Timcast.
So let's break down so far. Tim Pool got interested in activism, thought he would check out what was going on with Occupy Wall Street, got lucky enough to be there and film important events taking place at it, which launched him into getting a job with Vice, a big alternative media company, who he then broke away from to start his own thing after he had already established his name at Vice. Look, I'm not saying these things don't happen. I'm not saying these things couldn't happen to you. I just want you to cognitively start taking in the series of events that led to it and understand that each of those events gave Tim Pool an advantage over other people in terms of getting to this goal.
Podcast Network has over 4 million subscribers, over 1 billion views, and
and then he capitalized on wokeness as a concept to feed into the right-wing grift.
Songs on Apple's top 10 list.
They can't be good.
And yeah, I'm still working my ass off. In short, I trusted myself more than I trusted my teachers or my managers or the people running the companies I worked for. Whatever value they assigned me, represented by a report card or a title or a paycheck, wouldn't have an impact on my success. How about you? Do you believe?
Okay, so that's not actually bad. You shouldn't let those things stop you. However, the amount of distrust that he is putting out there onto people who help guide us through society is kind of problematic. And the reason for that is that, well, sometimes people giving us advice or telling us how to do things are right. And this type of attitude is exactly the type of attitude that gets you imploded at the bottom of the ocean. This is the exact type of bullshit that billionaire would say. Oh, don't listen to experts. They're just holding you back. Oh, real innovation comes from breaking the rules. Next thing you know, billionaires inside out at the bottom of the ocean, crushed inside a tin can, taking the lives of people of about four or five people less deserving of him to die. Probably. I don't know. One of them could have been a serial killer. I don't know. Let's get back to Tim here. Yeah, we're getting close to the end now.
Believe in yourself enough to chart your own course so that you can one day do what you really want to do? For me, it's working for myself. For you, it could be getting to the C-suite of a Fortune 500 corporation, or staying at home and raising a family, or becoming a cattle rancher. There are a million good options. I'm not going to make any judgments about what you want to do. My life-changing advice? Well, sorry, I don't have any, except maybe this. Work, keep working, and then work harder. I figured it out. Your turn. I'm Tim Pool, host of Timcast for Prager University.
Okay, so here's an important thing that Tim leaves out of his work, keep working, and then work harder. He didn't say this part out loud, and I don't know why. But the actual important thing in Tim Pool's advice here is that he kept working on something he cared about. At a certain point, he got himself off the ground enough to do that. Although, to be fair, I don't think you have to be rich to go be part of Occupy Wall Street from the sound of how that all went. For those of you not familiar with Occupy Wall Street, it was essentially a giant anarcho protest against the bailing out of the Wall Street companies for when the housing market crashed, even though it was their fault. Unfortunately, the protest was highly influential in some very interesting ways. However, it was also poorly organized, white-centric, white male-centric in terms of leadership, and they didn't really actually have concrete goals to accomplish against Wall Street. Everyone knew that Wall Street should be held accountable, but no one really had any ideas about what that should be. Occupy Wall Street would have a great effect on activism in general in America. After this point, activism got used to being in people's faces again. It was a lot more in your face or at least it was a lot more in your face than I remember the anti-war protests from the Bush era being. But then again, I was a teenager in my early 20s when that happened. Maybe I don't remember it that well. But from what I remember, this was a good bit more crazy. I'm sorry, wrong word. Aggressive. The fact that it was white and male-centric would cause some splitting in amongst left-wing activism, resulting in them sort of drifting apart and having different goals, which is unfortunate. I'm going to be honest. That was actually the least terrible PragerU video I've ever seen, because there was at least a couple things in there that were kind of true. What I don't like about the video is that Tim Pool doesn't really seem to understand his advantages. And I know he had some disadvantages too, like dropping out of high school, like a total idiot. And you know what? I'm gonna be kind of that. I would be willing to bet that Tim Pool has something. Maybe he is diagnosed publicly. I don't know. That either he has never made a diagnosis public of, or he has not been diagnosed. But I'd be willing to bet he has something that maybe made it hard for him to learn in high school. Now, in fairness, that's actually the charitable take, because the uncharitable take is that he's a pompous ass who made a really poor decision, that he was fortunate enough to not ultimately turn into a problem for him. Because the reality is that the higher your education, on average, the more money you make. Now, are there a bunch of people with master's degrees in philosophy who are janitors right now? Yes, because when you get a degree, there's a few things you should be aware of, which is that some degrees they have very specific jobs they're for. The easy ones, of course, to pick at are philosophy, or can you even be a full professor in gender studies? I feel like that's a subcategory of something you would actually have a degree in. Anthropology, social studies, I'm not sure. But the point is that there are some degrees that only have academic value, which means the only job you can really get with it is to be a professor in some type of college situation. And that's not bad. We need those jobs, okay? We need people who do that for society. We don't want to lose philosophy. And gender is something we absolutely should study. Is anyone gonna get rich off of those? It is as likely as, I mean, maybe anyone with those kind of degrees is just as qualified to do what Tim Pool's doing. Because Tim Pool's never studied journalism. He just talked to people in a coffee shop. So if you're a philosophy person or a gender studies person, maybe now's the time for you to start your YouTube channel. Maybe, go to some protests or rallies and live stream it like he did. Next thing you know, maybe the news picks up your live stream, or people hear it's happening, so they want to see the live stream. Next thing you know, people are subscribing and liking and donating to your Patreon. Oh my God. Do I need to go to a protest with a camera? No, I need to go to a protest with a phone that has unlimited data. I don't have that. But maybe I could get a hotspot. I don't know. The point is the thing that bothers me about the video is that Tim Pool does this thing where he is not acknowledging, he's telling you his story to be inspirational. But the truth is there's a lot of luck involved in Tim Pool's story. And not all of Tim Pool's choices will necessarily bring you to that conclusion. And Tim Pool doesn't really seem to understand how fortunate he was to be at that place at that time with the phone that he used. Did he work hard after that? Sure. But to be fair, he also got a bunch of book deals, so he could have worked less hard if he wanted to. He had something to build off of, and then he got into Vice, which allowed him to build off of that more. And that's really where it is. He had key stepping stones, and one of them was something he only kind of had control on. If he had chosen not to get involved, like I said, we don't know where Tim Pool would be right now. Could be a completely different timeline. Maybe he's a success in that timeline. Maybe he's a serial killer. Maybe he got hit by a bus. We don't know. Hard work is important, but if Tim Pool's story proves anything, so is luck. Thank you for watching or listening to Ruben Uncut. Please like and subscribe wherever you are taking in this content, whether that is on Spotify, where I highly encourage you to subscribe, or on my YouTube channel, which I also highly encourage you to subscribe to, so you can get more of this kind of content. You watch it all the way to the end, so you either enjoyed it or you really hate me. Either way, you should click on that notifications thing to either enjoy my content or get your hate on. I don't care. It's early. It's early for me. If you want to contact the show, please email me at rubenuncut@gmail.com, or, go to the YouTube channel and leave some messages. I don't think they have direct messaging on YouTube anymore. They probably got rid of that when kids were allowed to have their own YouTube channels, which is smart. All right. Oh, I already said thank you for listening. Oh, boy. Peace out, y'all.